Right. Hello, and thank you for everyone who's joined us. We're now live. So hello, Semrush friends and family. And it's my great pleasure to host this webinar. This is the e-commerce SEO surgery, the first one of a few to come. And we can see we've already got some people join us from, I think that was Mongolia.
Welcome.
So, yeah, I'm pleased to be here with these three experts. I'll let them introduce themselves because I'm sure they're going to do a much better job than what I will. So we'll start off with Stacy.
Hi, I am the lead website strategist for Impact Branding and Design, an agency out of Connecticut here in the US. My job is pretty much to tell people why their websites suck or help them make them not suck. My area of expertise is really user experience and strategy. So I'm going to leave it to the rest of the very talented humans on this call to talk about some of the more technical side of things.
That's it. And then we jump back over the pond to Luke.
Yeah, so operating out of the UK here, I am an independent e-commerce consultant, and I fix people's e-commerce websites, help them make more money and bits and pieces like that. As far as discipline's concerned, I kind of park my butt right in the middle between technical SEO and CRO. Depending on how I'm feeling, depends on what side of the coin I decide to sit on. Who knows? Could be wild. But yeah, I'm super looking forward to this. This is going to be awesome.
That's it. And then last but not least, Franco.
Oh, Franco Valentino from Narrative SEO in Nashville, Tennessee. All I do is throw fuel on what these guys do. We're the plumbers. When things get clogged, we sort of clear those clogs. So very technical. We're sort of serverologists and watch for the digital interconnections between your website and Google and make sure that things are flowing correctly.
That's it. Yeah. So I can see we got someone from your town, Luke, Birmingham, joining us. So,
yeah, that's a good friend of mine, actually.
Oh, that's good. Yeah.
that's a great man.
That's it. And we've got people from like Utah and where else we got? We got Italy. What log comments just disappeared? Italy as well as Mongolia. I think the first one was. So that's great. Yeah. So we've got some sites that we're going to look at, and we've got plenty more for the next one that comes up. So who wants to take the floor first with the sites that you've been looking at?
So ladies first, I would say.
Yeah, no problem.
Okay, so I'll go ahead and share screen. So one of the sites that was submitted was Exodus Travel. So they have a global site. So you're right now might be looking at a slightly different version than what you might see because this is the US version of it. But overall, I was really impressed with the site. There's just a few really specific things I was going to hit on from a UX perspective. And then Franco and Luke, feel free to jump in whenever you guys have anything else you'd like to add. The first and foremost that I struggled with a little bit was the way our menu works. It's definitely not a typical menu experience. I have to do a lot of clicking and waiting to get something that I want. So typically, if you don't do a hover effect on the menu and just allow the menu to open on hover, people think that it's just a single click as opposed to all of these items that drop down and you can then choose the next one. So just make sure that you have hover ability on your menu because that's what people expect. The other thing that we don't really have is a really specific call to action anywhere in our menu. So usually from eye tracking studies, we know that that top right corner is really what we want to reserve for that very noticeable like button style call to action. And I think you guys have a really interesting opportunity after playing around with your site to almost give somebody like a help me build my vacation type of call to action. So it's like guides them through the process because there's a lot of information and it can be a little bit overwhelming as we dive into the site. So when I pick like a specific place or a destination area, I'm taken to this landing page which requires me to then take one more step to really dive into the vacations. So they'll have some of them listed here, but if I go to see all trips, this is where the beauty of this website lives. It is this magical, filterable, searchable place where all of the vacations are housed. So we're taking a lot of steps to get someone to this, which is like the money of the site, if you will. It allows me to really easily say, oh, okay, I want this to be 5 days. And I want to search multiple destinations. So maybe I'm not sure where I want to go. That's the trouble about getting here is I have to pick one place first. But if I have like 3 vacations I'm interested in, I don't even know that this exists. And so here I could choose to also go to South America and I can compare and look at both at the same time. So whatever you can do in the user experience and the user journey to get people here faster is what needs to happen. So we're kind of hiding this, and this is the best part of your entire site, if you ask me. I loved it once I got here. So the other thing that's great is how many filter options that you guys have. So you can really narrow down what you want to be able to do. Like I'm a running nut, but I also have 2 little kids. So I need trips that can support both. But occasionally you're going to find that those things don't work together. So you guys have great messaging for when that happens. So this section of your site, I love. And I love that it's really clear and easy to figure out when and how to turn these filters off. But it just takes me way too long to get here. And so really when we're thinking about that call to action that you can use in this top corner, you're kind of using it for the phone number right now, which I understand. You can still keep a phone number in your menu by all means. But a button here that's like, help me plan my perfect vacation, is exactly what I would click on when I came here, instead of trying to like navigate through all of the potential choices on your site. And you can ask me a few questions, right? Like pop up, take over the whole screen and say, what locations are you interested in? And let me check off 3 or 4 and just guide me through it and bring me here. Like you're going to get a ton of conversions from doing just that. So that's high level what I really noticed. There's the changes to the menu. I would even make this search bar more prominent too, because it's actually a really cool search experience. It's not a typical boring, just one, like enter your search. It actually allows you to like start your filtering from here. So I would just make this a little bit more prominent. It's kind of hidden as it is today. So Franco, Luke, do you guys have anything to weigh in on from a technical perspective?
So I'm just taking a look at their filters real quick, just to see whether they're indexed or not. And from the look of it, having a real quick look, they don't seem to be. So they're kind of missing out on some of these long tail, super high converting opportunities right here. So, you know, you've got filters applied with certain destinations, with regions, with certain activities, lifestyles. I mean, there's a fine balance between allowing Google and the search engines to go like absolutely crazy and trying to find what's going on, and also trying to capitalize on some of those long tail opportunities. So that would be something I'd let happen for sure. So one of the first parameters or filters, if you like, the key ones in terms of like destination and things like that, that could be an opportunity to get there. But I'm fully on board with what you're saying with the design thing. I checked this out earlier, and I actually don't think I've even seen this page until you're actually sharing it now.
It took me way too long to find it. It was so great. I know.
Yeah, definitely. I hear you on the search as well. I think search and e-commerce go hand in hand. Over a third of all conversions that go through typically on e-commerce sites are driven by internal search. There's no way that search is prominent enough. And I also have a bit of an association between the design of the search almost versus how much you want a customer to use it. So the smaller your search is, you typically assume that the search is just going to be bog standard or inferior in some way. As you said, it's a pretty cool experience. They should definitely highlight and make that more prominent for sure.
As an aside, just because I'm all for like showing real examples, look at what Amazon does, which I think we know they're probably the leader in e-commerce. Yeah. Their entire menu is the search. Like everything else is secondary. The search is almost all of what you see. And that's honestly what you guys should probably be going for, because your menu is complex. Like Amazon hides most of it, or makes it much more like lower scale to their search. So
that's a great point. Other travel sites that you go to as well, that search bar and the navigation, or the primary search bar on the left, is the most prominent thing, so you can immediately get to what you're looking for, essentially. From a technical perspective, the platform's sitting on Drupal, which is a wonderful platform for a CMS. They do have Cloudflare as a content delivery network sitting on top of it, but the DOM load times, the page load times, the complete load times are at 15 seconds for some pages. Ooh, which wow. Sort of, it points us down to, if we're talking benchmarks, right? Our internal sort of gut checks are, DOM should be 6 seconds maximum. For e-commerce, it should really be, 1 to 2 seconds. So this points us, sort of the lowest hanging fruit is optimizing the database. Sometimes just re-indexing the database tables within PHPMyAdmin can solve a lot of problems, time to first byte issues, document load times, and then you sort of move up the stack towards image optimization, for example. So that was the biggest thing for me, was again, optimizing the database and then running a global image optimization. The other thing is, and I want to get Paul's thoughts on this, I didn't find any schema at all on the website. Zero. There's no organizational schema. There's no travel schema. There's zero templates, which is a great opportunity for them.
That's it. Yeah, I noticed that as well. And if I just grab the screen, there was a couple of other little bits that I picked up on as well. So 2 seconds.
Yeah.
There we go. So I looked at their robot.txt, and they're delaying all crawlers, as you can see by this bit here, by 10 seconds. So they're only allowing them to crawl one URL every 10 seconds.
Wow.
So that means that they're only going to crawl 8,640 pages a day, which that either tells you they've either got a major problem with their server, that they can't cope with any more crawling going on than that, or they just really don't want their site to be crawled that often. So that was the first thing that I noticed. The other thing they've got as well is they're trying to index pages. Obviously, they're an international site, and they have got many pages. And if we take a look at the Hreflang tool here, so as you come down, we've got .com, we've got .co.uk, and we've got .eu. At the moment, if we look down, we've got .co.uk for India, which I think they're going to have a bit of a trouble trying to rank a .co.uk domain name in India. To start off with, they should be piggybacking that off of the back of the .com. Also, they're doing the same for MT, which I can't remember that country code off the top of my head. But they've certainly got it for South Africa, ZA, and CH as well. So they're trying to rank other pages in other geos on a .co.uk, which obviously isn't going to go too well for them, because we know that country level domain names you're going to find quite hard to index in the wrong country, so to say. And then they have got some other broken Hreflang where it appends a country code onto the back of it. So we go from here, not in there, in the Hreflang testing tool. So you can see here we've got no link back, because when we go to that URL, it 301s us straight forward to a different URL, which has got flights equals excluded on the back of it. So it's almost like you're linking it to the wrong domain name and the wrong URL, should I say? And again, then it applies that filter again to all the back of, or that query to the back of all the other URLs. So there's a couple of little bits and pieces there from the crawlability side of it. And on your point, Luke, the search, that is no index as well. So they've got no index tag on there. So like you're saying, I mean, for certain queries, they should remove that to allow them to get ranked for certain activities or places.
Yep.
Yeah, yeah.
I'm going to go and steal screen share back for 1 second. So I wanted to just touch on, before we finish, the actual final product page. So essentially the buy page. One of the biggest things that I noticed on this page too is that we have our breadcrumbs that look almost exactly the same as our submenu in terms of the font size, style, like how big they are on the page, which is a little bit strange from a user experience perspective. That you're going to probably have people accidentally be clicking on this when they don't mean to be. So we just probably need to find a way to create some visual difference between those. The breadcrumbs, I think, are super valuable from an SEO perspective, but may not be as useful from a user experience perspective, and we're really putting them front and center. The other thing that I would definitely say is a great opportunity, you guys have a ton of information on these pages, and they're really long. I would make this section here, where it really essentially is the buy option. Here it's view dates and prices and takes them through the purchase process. I would make that almost something that stays sticky to the screen and follows them down the whole way, so that at any point on the page as I'm reading, I can be like, yep, buy. So I don't have to figure out, scroll back up and find it again. That's definitely something that's really valuable to do when you have longer product pages. Shorter product pages, you don't really see that problem because there's not as much scrolling, but because there is so much here and there are some competing calls to action here, I would really want to make sure that this is staying in front of my face the whole time and is the most prominent thing I see. So those would be the last couple things I'd note before we move on to the next.
We did have a question, and I think this was for Luke when he was talking about the filters. Why would you want the filters crawled for long tail search visibility instead of targeting the long tail searches on the product page itself?
Yeah, so I think typically, especially when you've got like a broad taxonomy of products, or in this case listings, you have a fine balance between choosing one item to rank for versus a category page or a listing page that satisfies that query from multiple options. So, for example, if someone searched for, let's say, holidays to Canada under a certain price range, there might be a case where you actually have a category for that is better than one specific destination holiday. But it really is a really fine road to walk, because you go one way and you can open up your website to millions of bloat URLs. But if you get it just right, you can find yourself in a situation where you're ranking for keywords that your competitors aren't, or you're ranking for keywords that might be easier to index for, rather than those big sort of high traffic, really high competition keywords. So typically, if you have products, listings, or items that are that satisfy more than one of those, then it absolutely makes sense to use a category template to rank for, rather than a specific individual listing page. But it depends on your vertical, it depends on the size of your operation, but there is a perfect sweet spot to getting that right.
That's a great segue. The fact that you're talking about optimizing a category page, versus a product page. There was another question: will you guys be talking about content creation and backlinks? I think that's actually, we're talking about a very similar thing, because to Google, a web page is a web page. They don't rank websites; they rank individual pages. So when you're talking about optimizing a category page, it's no different than optimizing a regular blog post that you want to rank. I think so if we can touch about that real quick to answer the question is. You want your category pages to have the appropriate terms and subheadings and H tags and so forth to rank by itself, with all of the listed categories potentially in a Mason, or products within a masonry grid on the page, right?
Yeah, absolutely, 100%. I think to add a little bit more context to that, so in a site such as this, or any site of this size, you have a lot of filter options, you've got a lot of variables that you can play around with and your users can engage with, right? But you're naturally going to fall into a situation where you may only have one product in a category, or worst case, you have no products at all in a specific category once you start applying filters and all sorts of things like that. So one really cool thing I like to do is, when you have 0 results found in a specific category, or a subcategory, or whatever that category seems to look like, then you add a no index onto that, so you're not driving traffic to categories that fit the query but have no products in, or listings in, or whatever it is you're doing. And that is a nice way to kind of make sure your e-commerce structure for categories is always as clean as possible, to make sure you're not indexing for stuff that you just don't sell anymore.
That's it. Sound advice there from you guys. So Luke, let's jump back across to this side of the pond again, and why don't you let us know about the site that you've been looking at?
Yeah, sure. So I am going to share. Right, hold on a second. Everyone see my screen? So
yeah, that's it.
Juicy details. I am a huge petrol head, so as soon as I've seen this site submitted, I was like, yes, okay, absolutely have to jump all over this one. And there's definitely a few things that I'd like to hone in on for sure. So one of the first ones is the fact that that jumps out is on the category page. You've got a PayPal button here, which kind of leaves the assumption that maybe PayPal is the only way you can pay. And this is very much a personal one, and I've spoken to customers and clients before, but when you see PayPal without any of the sort of payment options at the checkout, it does almost leave a feel as if it's a smaller operation. So having the ability for people to pay by Visa or MasterCard or other kind of formats as well is a great way of, one, increasing your conversion, because not everybody has a PayPal account, or not everybody wants to pay via PayPal, and two, it just kind of adds a bit more of a trust signal than just PayPal alone. I think on top of that, as you can see, if you're close enough to your screens right now, you can see that I've got the finger pointer on my on the PayPal button. So when I hit that, it's immediately taken me away from the site. I haven't actually done anything, I haven't added anything to my basket, but I'm allowed to click that button. What happens here is I then get a very random sporadic error message, which might then concern customers about whether it's safe, secure, or whether they've done the right thing. So it kind of doesn't need to be there as an operational button. It's almost hurting the website more than anything else. I think on top of that, categories are kind of thin. It's a tricky one. It depends on how many products that this particular brand has. But jumping into the product pages for a second, you've got this same thing again here, where you've got a number of PayPal buttons just kind of everywhere. Now, these are great if you want to go away and buy individual products, but at the end of the day, every e-commerce business wants to increase average order value. So allowing people to purchase on a one-to-one level, or encouraging that, is going to hurt your profits, because you're going to have to pay more for shipping versus the amount of items, and then your processing time and all that sort of good stuff there. So one of the key things for sure is just to make sure that these buttons are used appropriately, And we've got the same problem here again. You know, I click that button and there's a delay and an error message and so on and so forth. One thing I guess I do like is the fact that it's nice and clean and simple. It's typical cliche e-commerce. There's nothing really eccentric here, but at the same time, there's nothing that's a really big deal either. I think we spoke earlier, Stacy mentioned it, you know, Franco, I think we're all in agreement here on this call that search is hugely important. So, you know, having a search functionality, I don't think they've got any auto predict on here or any auto suggest. So, you know, if I search for shampoo, for example, oh, here we go. No, it works on me today. So when I did it earlier, this wasn't a thing, but it's working now, which is good news. So maybe it's a browser issue as I'm in a different browser today. But there's just a number of things that they could do to certainly make things easier here. I think breadcrumbs, it doesn't look like a breadcrumb. So as a result, it may not be treated like one, which is a shame. H1 is good. So we've got that in the right place. And I don't know if you just saw that then, but when you bring up the search, you actually lose the entire mega menu. Now, as navigation is principal to any website, you don't want to be in a situation where you have one or the other for sure. They should both be showcased in equal proportion. And I guess the perfectionist in me, if you like, has kind of found that these are slightly misaligned, but it's not really a big deal. But when you think about customer perception, you've got your PayPal buttons that don't work. You've only got PayPal as an option. You've got misaligned buttons here. Your categories are thin. It kind of screams of a business that just doesn't necessarily have the kudos and I guess the expertise, if you like, to really go against the big guys with people like Detailing World and so on and so forth. So it's, I think from a technical point of view, we've seen a number of things that we've spoken about, which is weird internal links going on, some links in the footer here that shouldn't be there. You've got font on fonts where, you know, the colors are too similar, so that's not going to be particularly great. There's nothing majorly wrong, but there's lots of little things. And in the world of e-commerce, it's all about incremental gains. It's all about the small things and the small wins you can make that lead up to the large things that are going on.
Yeah, and just to add to some of the user experience portions of this site, I would definitely agree on that search function. Make it its own section. Don't use it to remove your navigation by any stretch. But when you go to the listing pages, there's not really any filterability. There's not a way for me to narrow my choices or figure out which one is the best. So what you're really doing is you're forcing like what we call like the Easter egg hunt. You're making people click on each product and then go learn about it and then click back and click on the next product to try and figure out enough to figure out which one is the right one for them. People get frustrated really, really fast with that. Like kids like Easter egg hunts, but adults not so much. So anything that you can do to remove some of the effort, so adding filters and things like that so they can narrow down their products. The other thing that I found odd is that on every page, be it a product page, a filter page, over there, in this case, it's on the left, where you have categories, juicy news, and sponsored cars. Those two links are on every single page of your site, and they're probably like the least important thing you want to send people to. So I would just figure out where and when is the right time to present those links and take them off the page. Like, especially on product pages, you don't want to take them away from the page where they're going to buy something from you. So take off unnecessary links like that for sure.
Yeah, I think just to add a little bit of, I guess, a technical as well, is like these default sorting options are great, but they can be an absolute nightmare for SEO, mainly because you're just creating a lot of duplicate URLs, especially when you combine this with, you know, Stacy's point on adding navigation. You've got maybe hundreds, if not thousands of versions of the same URL. I haven't actually seen, in fact, I'll come back to that in a second. So where you have default sorting, let's say popularity or so on and so forth, if these are indexable, all you're doing is making it more difficult for Google or any of the search engine to work out which page to choose. You're wasting crawl quota, and you're making it more difficult for the more important pages to be discovered. So when you combine that with the point that Stacey just made, with links like this, with lack of canonicals and so on, it starts to get quite broad and quite technically challenging relatively quickly. And in the world of e-commerce, as you scale up your business, so as you add more products, add more categories, add more items, then these problems just get worse. And they can be a massive problem, especially when you then think about migrating to a new site. And it's a whole problem. So getting it technically sound at this stage is, you know what, it's a relatively small site, is definitely worthwhile.
Yep.
Yeah, if I could take your screen real quick, I've got a lot to say about Juicy. I'm a car guy too. We don't call them petrol heads here in the States, right? I call them car guys, right? So let's go look at, because speed can be a little bit deceptive. So let's take a look at the normal testing tool that we typically fall back on. And we go to webpagetest.org, for example, right? And you add your domain. We're testing from the UK to make sure it's an analogous test. And on a Chrome connection, let's say on a phone, because e-commerce primarily mobile, right? So when we look at it, it looks really good. Like they're checking all the boxes off from the metrics. However, when we actually dig into it, first byte time's at 1.4 seconds. Our benchmarks for mobile, especially for e-commerce, is 200 milliseconds. So 0.2 of a second. So we're way out of line here from that standpoint, meaning there's a lot of opportunity to be had from a conversion standpoint, because big data tells us that for every second of slowdown that you have on your website, that's about a 7% drop in conversions. So analogously as well, if your website goes from 1 second to 3 second slowdown, that's about 64% visitor loss. So this is why we focus deeply on speed. So this is the first thing, and I'd ask the question, why is the first byte time so low? So we start looking at what server are they on, what's the platform. This website happens to be WordPress, and it's sitting on soft layer. So immediately we know that we can do a couple of things. Optimize the WordPress database. I bet that hasn't been done in a while. So let's take a look at some of the components that would actually make the speed. When we actually test it in Lighthouse, which is one of Google's testing tools, and look at the waterfall, we see the speed index is 7.6 seconds. So again, we're testing with some pretty critical metrics like emulating a phone, and we're seeing that we have a lot of opportunity here. So again, optimizing the WordPress database, number one, and then going into WordPress and saying, okay, where's my lowest hanging fruit? The tool is telling us that there's 2 1/3 seconds for render blocking resources. So JavaScript may not be concatenated and minified. The order of the sequencing of the CSS on the page may not be ideal as well. So that points us to adding some type of caching plugin like WP Rocket or Auto Optimize, and then inlining the critical CSS, which can get the above the fold content on the screen almost immediately or as fast as possible, and then let everything else load in the background, or lazy load, right? Set lazy loading on the resources of the images, so any image that the user doesn't see on the screen doesn't have to load until the user scrolls down on that screen. So that's a great opportunity, and they're fairly simple fixes. Another thing that we're noticing on the speed test is that the tool's reporting they have a CDN. They're using WP MU CDN. There are many CDNs available, content delivery networks. We typically recommend Cloudflare to sit on top of the website because you can tune it. It can add Brotli compression. A typical standard server usually uses gzip, which is a 30-year-old protocol. Brotli compression is about a 30% improvement over gzip, and it was developed by Google to deliver the Google Fonts environment, for example. So there's a lot more tuning available to us. One other thing that I noticed as well is when we look at the since we're WordPress, and we know that we're on an Apache server with Nginx proxy on top of it, there's something else that we can do here as well. And part of the optimization is check your PHP version levels. If they're on PHP 7.2, 7.3 is about 30% faster. 7.4 just came out. So again, it provides incremental speed because the website can process faster. The core files can go to the database, and they can deliver and process the theme files quicker. So that's another opportunity. Also, when we look at the href language tester, there's nothing. So again, the UK site, it would help solidify their Google footprint within the UK Google database. And I'll let Paul maybe expand a little bit more about that, but they don't have that available right now.
Yeah, I think I want to jump in real quick on the speed points that you made there, Franco, because one of the things in e-commerce that typically doesn't show up on speed audits, although that stuff is amazingly important, is almost the macro events, which is how long does it take to add an item to the basket? Because the page could be really fast or the page could be really slow. But if it takes like 5 seconds to add an item to the basket, then you're frustrated, especially if you're rage clicking the button and then you're adding 7 instead of 1. And I think the really poignant thing as well is how long does it take to complete the conversion? So when you're actually at the checkout and you hit pay now or checkout now, whatever it is, how long does it take to give you your confirmation page? Because I've seen sites that take plus 30 seconds. But these are the sort of things that you can't measure necessarily with the page speed tools. I guess it's almost like seeing the user event. And you can do sorts of things like that in GA in terms of firing an event that tells you when they've clicked add to basket versus how long it's taken them to fire the actual success message to get the item added to the basket.
Right.
So
That's
paying attention to those.
Yeah, that's a wonderful point. And the good news is that there's medicine that you can take that fixes the entire organism, so to speak. When you do optimize these databases, typically all of the speed metrics get better. The one that you're talking about adding, the input delay to a shopping cart.
Yeah.
This is the metric that this is the particular metric within Lighthouse that points to that, which is the potential first input delay from the user is 850 milliseconds. So almost a second of input delay, and potentially, depending on the mobile device and the network, et cetera, it could take up to 13 seconds total for the user to be able to do something on the screen. So again, holistic, again, fixing one thing fixes a host of other things down the waterfall. So
that's it, yeah. And I have picked up on one thing for this site, which goes back to the conversation that we were having a moment ago about the different filters and the different variations of the search feature. This is their sitemap. Now they've pretty much got everything in there, but the one that stood out to me initially was the size. Now, when we come through here, we can see we've got pretty much what you'd call like a filtered search that really they're trying to index. So this page, once it does load, you can see this is all the products which are a product size medium, and obviously there's only a few there, but again, you've got that for every single thing. So what we're going to find is you're going to have the same hoodie or the same set of gloves, wherever it is in multiple places. Like there's the same T-shirt that's available here as well, and they're actually giving this to Google in a sitemap and saying to them, please index this. Yeah. So straight away, like you're saying, Luke, a moment ago, it's creating index bloat unnecessarily, and then Google's got to decide which part of the site that it's going to rank for a certain query, rather than being given a clear signal on this is the page that we want to rank because we've put the effort in to add that additional content to that category page to really sort of help solidify that signal that that's the most important page to be ranking. And yeah, those pages are indexable and 200 status and all of the above that it shouldn't be.
A final point to add on that, although it's quite generic rather than specifically to juicy details, is the ability to rank for competitors, which is something that a lot of people don't necessarily want. So if you imagine in the situation where Juicy Details or any other site is indexing their, I guess, variation types, if you like. A variation type could be one of the names of your key competitors. So if you're indexing for something like, I don't know, let's say there's a brand called XL Detailing, and then all of a sudden you've got that size of XL, you've got detailing in your brand name, you then start to rank for competitors for something that you really didn't want to be involved in. And it can get messy kind of fast. So there's definitely value in making sure that you're culling and properly identifying the URLs that you don't need Google and any of the search engine to see.
Right, so I can see we've got some questions. So we'll pick up on a couple of those. So Peg has asked, I want to know the importance of having meta descriptions be fewer than 155 characters. I don't know if anyone wants to pick up on that one at all.
I'll talk about it from the non-technical side. I'm sure there's plenty of technical answers to this too. But essentially, what a meta description does for you on the non-technical side is it is your advertisement for your page in search results. Essentially, it is the thing that you use to convince someone to click through to your page instead of clicking on search result that's right above or right below you. So it's essentially like almost more valuable from a user perspective than a technical perspective in a lot of cases. And it'll cut you off or do the ... after 155. So you're just basically not getting value out of the words that are past that 155 mark sometimes. Sometimes it'll show more. But for the most part, if you really want to make sure that somebody's reading it, you want it in that first 155 characters.
I'll add one detail. There was a recent study that came out last week, and I apologize for not knowing the source. I'll post it in the comment notes later. 62% of people click on a website or click off of Google or search onto the website because the meta description compelled them to. and this was ranked by actual users. So it's a 62% opportunity for you if you haven't optimized your meta descriptions or they're missing. And we'll get into that more later.
Yeah. The other thing that's really interesting, if you include the keyword that's being searched for, that's valuable, is it'll bold the keyword in your meta description. So it'll draw the eye. So as often as you can use the keyword you're hoping to be ranked for on that particular meta description, then it'll bold and then make it so that people will more quickly or more readily read your meta description.
Yeah, I think that's all really fair. I think if you're in a situation where you're I guess concerned about the length of your meta description as a core concern, I'd say you're in a pretty damn good space. If I could say to my client that the only thing I'm worried about right now is how long your meta descriptions are, not the quality of them, but how long they are, you're in a pretty damn good spot. They are super important, especially again in the world of e-commerce where you've got potentially thousands of products. So making a global change can have macro impacts on a ridiculous scale. But all the points that both Stacy and Franco have mentioned are still true. So they're absolutely important. They help more so with, I guess, click-through rate than they do direct SEO. And I guess in the world of e-commerce, it really is a case of people on your site and essentially what of that gets turned into sales that's important. So I guess it's a macro CRO thing, if you like.
Yeah,
to answer that question directly.
It's a new term.
Exactly. I totally agree with that.
Fabulous.
Yeah, it's on SERP CRO. Yeah, and we got another question from Caleb. What is the best way to handle products with variations when it comes to product detail pages? Should there be one product page or variant toggle, or each variant has a product detail page?
Caleb, I love this question. You're the man. I would say that from a technical SEO perspective, I would always prefer to index and rank the category variant than the product page variant itself. So to give an idea of what I mean, so let's say you've got a t-shirt and that's available in 6 different sizes and 5 different colors. If you're indexing on a product level, again, it goes back to my point earlier, you're only allowing the search engines to show one result at any one time for any one product. So the chances of the landing page being accurate at that any one time is going to be quite slim. But if you do it on a category level, if you can show a landing page organically, that is all the t-shirts you have in that specific color, in a specific size, the chances are you're going to have more than one. The chances are, therefore, you're going to have a better engaged customer on a category level than a product level because you've got more choice, you've got more options, you have breadcrumbs to look at, you have filters to play around with, you have other directions in which people can go, and you might have banners for special offers and all sorts of cool stuff. And from a technical point of view, it's actually easier because rather than going down the whole route of indexing 15 different product URLs for the same products for different variants, you don't have to do it on a product level, you do it on a category level. So it's less URL bloat, it's a better landing page experience. Can I think of any more reasons? Do it on the category level, and I'll think of some more. And if I think of any good ones, I'll drop it in the comments. But that's typically my go-to.
That's it. Anyone else want to add to that before we get on to the next one with Franco?
Good.
No? Yeah. So Franco, I know you've been looking at one site in particular. So if we jump into that, and then we'll jump back into the questions at the end if we've got more time.
Fantastic. All right, let me share screen. And this is a wonderful segue to our meta description discussion a moment ago. So we'll start with the on page first. So this is the site. It's Amigo Skate Shop. They're a Spanish e-commerce site that does clothing and skatewear for people that skate, which is not me. Lost my head. So one of the things, when we crawled the site, 85% of their URLs are duplicate meta descriptions. That's a massive, 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 massive opportunity to compel more clicks. When meta descriptions are unique, the products, the Google and other search engines can pick up those keywords and rank them thusly. So one thing, there are two very big issues here: the duplicate meta descriptions, and then we also had duplicate titles on the pages to the tune of about 84% as well. So again, huge opportunity. That was number one. Number two is their meta descriptions. Let's go into the speed test first, and then we'll go into the href language tags. When we tested the site for speed, there were a couple of 404s. It looks like they've got a JavaScript file that's getting in the way, and this is a render blocking issue, so this is slowing the site down. They are the platform's on Shopify, so it's a little bit harder to go through the themes and actually fix. It's not WordPress, so you can just go grab a developer. You need a specific Shopify developer for this. This particular page was 404ing, and for some reason, Google Tag Manager embed code is 404ing also, which signals, and I think Paul can speak to this point, the ordering or the positioning of the tag on the page may be incorrect. So
yeah, also sometimes it's a 404 if it's an unpublished container as well. So it's not actually firing anything.
Okay. All right. Perfect. So so that's that. We see the first byte time is also at the 1 second mark on mobile. While we're getting, again, good scores, we see that the document complete time is at 10 seconds. High water benchmark is 6 seconds. So they're using the Shopify. CDN as well. It's a good CDN, but before you upload an image to the server, that image should be pre-optimized as much as possible to let the CDN do a better job. So when we look at the website itself and we start thinking internationally, there are two href language tags on the website, and they point to either the English version of the website, which is collections, just collections. This is the vintage category, and then we have Spanish for skateshop.com A subfolder LES. But when you click on that, it actually goes to amigoskateshop.com and then puts a query string parameter at the end, and it's done so that redirect is done in a 302. So it's a temporary redirect, which passes none of the page value to it. So that's a big issue. So what we've done is this is what the language tags should look like. They should have the country code as well in front of the language. So if you're going to say this is my Spanish page, set it to the language that you want to say that you want it in Spanish. For example, if you want Spanish in Spain, ES would be the appropriate one. If you want English in the UK, it would be EN-GB. Spanish Venezuela, for example, then you would do the appropriate country code there. So that's another ranking opportunity. It's also another Google database footprint opportunity for the website. Do you guys have any comments on that one?
I do, from a technical point of view as well. I think the mega menu, which is always a contentious point, right? Because you kind of want to be in a situation you're giving the customers as much choice as possible, but at the same time not giving them pages of kind of links to potentially choose from. But I want to look at this from a slightly different way, which is the number of follow links they have in the mega menu itself. So with a website like this, they don't have a huge amount of equity to pass around. So you're in a situation at the moment with a website like this where, from a technical standpoint, there's 120 links at the moment just in the mega menu alone, and that's on every single page. So when you think about passing equity across the pages that are important, you're diluting it by 120 times on every single page. That's a problem. So really the solution here is to identify precisely what pages are important to you, whether that's brands, certain categories, or a decision that I guess you make on a commercial perspective, and identify which URLs you want to allow to be followed and which ones you wish to have not followed. So for example, there might be a hyperlink to, say, a clearance category, which you may decide for whatever reason isn't necessarily worth passing a lot of equity to because it's temporary. So as a result, keep it in the mega menu if you wish to, but set that with a no index tag, or set that with a no follow tag, apologies. So my point here is that from a mega menu point of view, you're not passing equity in large quantities when you don't have a lot to offer in the first place. Properly segment and sculpt your information architecture and your equity pass-through across the e-commerce site, starting with the key categories and the key areas of the e-commerce site that's important to help you rank as well as possible.
Yeah, I would say that's like the best balance between UX and technical, right? Like it's so hard to find the happy medium between both of those because a real user using it, like all of that choice is great. But for Google, as far as they're concerned, you're just telling them about the same links over and over again. So that's a great way to get the best of both worlds for sure.
Yeah, one thing that I would challenge them to do as well is to put the menu a little bit higher above the fold, which gives them a lot more screen real estate for where the user wants to get to and potentially the categories, right? So skates, clothing, shoes, which they do have on the page, but you have to scroll down to find them. So just the relevant links a little bit higher within the above the fold.
Yeah, I have a lot of thoughts on that, Franco.
Go ahead. Yes, I'm sure you do.
First of all, we're going to be a broken record about search today. That search, it took me forever to even know it was there. For the longest time, I didn't think you had a search. So way more prominent. Your logo is huge. It's like, cool, I recognize it, but it doesn't do me any good to have your logo be that big and take up that much space. And the hero section of your page, so just under the menu, I can't do, there's just pictures there. They're nice pictures, but there's not like something for me to do from it. So we are taking up a whole lot of screen real estate with no next step. And to add to that, similar to what we said about Exodus, if you look up at the menu, there's no real call to action. There's nothing that stands out as a next step in that menu. And we also, this is like a minor detail, but it's like a pet peeve of mine when people put home in the menu. Has everyone here been using the internet for like a month? How do you get to a homepage of a website? You click on the logo. Everybody knows it. You don't need to have home and the logo as an option. Like just reduce the number of choices, make it simpler, and you can use your space a little bit more wisely.
I hear you on that, Stacey. It's one of those, it's a really tricky one to try and identify whether you kind of put it in there as a safety net or whether you strip it out and just encourage people to use the logo to get back to where they need to. I think in a situation with this website, because the logo is so, well, it takes up so much real estate, it makes it quite tricky to understand where precisely you'd click. You'd almost expect the whole thing to be hyperlinked, but it's just the logo itself. So I find that the middle ground is kind of like a home icon. So it doesn't take up so much estate, but you've still got that kind of comfort blanket for people who expect to see it there. But there's never a right or wrong answer. I think typically what I find is in a B2B environment where you've got a relatively mature demographic, people are using Internet Explorer on an old machine or whatever, having a home icon can make all the difference. But I hear you, in the world of consumer environments where it's FMCG or apparel or fashion, where everyone's browsing sites all the time, you can probably be a lot more blasé with it and think, hey, we don't need it there. But it's a tricky one. It's a contentious point in a boardroom on a lot of occasions, for sure.
Yeah. I always think it's interesting too, because for the most part, once you get somebody down to an interior page, there's not really a whole lot of reasons why you'd go back to the homepage. You're going to use the menu to navigate from there too. So I just don't, like, I agree that it's definitely makes sense to have as a safety net on occasion, but it also is like not a super huge concern if you don't have it as a safety net sometimes.
I guess the last thing I want to jump in, apologies, is that we've spoke about search a lot. We have, and I think there's definitely an assumption out there that integrating a properly good search is really expensive. And I wanted to be clear that that's not actually the case at all. We can have WordPress sites like, say, Juicy Details or this skate shop right here, where you're in a situation where maybe your budget isn't great. Maybe you can't look at the powers that be like SLI and stuff, which are in the tens of thousands on a yearly basis. But there are search engines out there that offer £150-ish a month, and whatever that is in your local currency, that can offer a really slick search experience with very little technical input. One of those, for example, is DoFinder. Another one is FactFinder, where they're really quite inexpensive, but can be a massive game changer between offering a bog standard WooCommerce /Shopify search experience versus offering a comparable, AO.com or a really kind of enterprise-esque feeling search engine. And in the world of e-commerce, you don't have that excuse to not offer customers what they want. Otherwise, you don't get the sales, right?
Yeah, there's also a lot of specifically e-commerce tuned WordPress themes that are light loading and very fast and responsive. One that we like to recommend is Astra and Astra Pro themes. They've got one specifically built for WordPress that ticks all of those buttons where the search is prominent and the pages are super fast and light. Getting back to our friends at Amigo Skate Shop, one other thing we noticed is there's no schema on the website except for products, which is good. That's appropriate and it's not erroring out. So that's a big plus. However, when you look at the mobile, if we're looking at this from the mobile standpoint, there's a couple of things here from the speed perspective as well. The Lighthouse audit surfaced an issue with lazy loading. Now, the platform is on Shopify, and Shopify is a very unique environment. It's sort of locked down. It's, the servers are in Canada, and there's certain things that you have to do. Like, for example, if you want additional product images to be indexed, you have to get a plugin from the Shopify app ecosystem that will actually generate another sitemap to give Google the CDN URLs for the products. So little specific things that have a lot to do with Shopify in its unique environment. Now, the images themselves are ticking the box for lazy loading because the tag is within the CSS class. However, they're not actually lazy loading. So there's a programmatic issue in the background as well. So that helps to speed up the website if they can fix that again within the liquid theme files that Shopify uses.
That's it, yeah. And obviously we've got the last 10 minutes that we're going into now. So I think, it's great the way that you guys have gone through all of these websites. And obviously we picked up on lots of different points of view. And let's get back to where was we with the questions? It was Caleb again. Specifically thinking the food and beverage industry, where you have food,
I think
drinks,
that was
and
related.
flavors. Yeah, that was related to the previous question.
Right.
Yeah, that's it, right. So let's move on to Vitally. Regarding sorting like descending, ascending price, if found useful for the customer or site owner chooses to keep them, do you recommend using URL parameter handling to eliminate SEO issues? So I take it that must be on about there.
Yeah, this is almost a bit of a red herring of a question, right? Because I just want to be clear that using parameters is not going to fix the underlying SEO problem here. Whether you use URL parameters or subfolders, or even, I forget what they're called now, but you've got like the hash thing instead of, whatever. But the point is here, whichever way you implement it, is it going to be better or worse for SEO? It all comes down to whether you have those parameters indexable, whether you have a canonical logic that says ignore any kind of sorting options, you're just canonical back to the parameter-free URL. That's the important thing here. So I just want to make it crystal clear that using parameters doesn't make it better than, say, hash banks, which I call, or subfolder structures. It all depends on what it is you want the search engine to do. But in the way of specific sorting order, a sorting order has no interest to the search engine in most cases. So whether you sort by price, by A to Z, by default, actually you just want your default to be there. And when I mean default, I mean your parameter-free version of that category URL. All of the parameters, if you like, which so you might have a parameter of sort by a low to high, that should canonical back to the parameter-free version, the default sorting option. Yeah, I think that's what the question is trying to ask, and I think I've answered it.
Anyone else want to chime in?
Nope, I agree wholeheartedly.
Yeah, agreed. I would say one other thing to check to expand on Luke's point is the canonicals. If you have a category and subcategory, even in this case, you have either anchor text with the hash bang, right, or the hashtag, or query string parameters. Is the canonicals for those variations can point to the main product page, almost like a hierarchical category, subproduct, or product subproduct variation, and then throw the keywords towards the main page. And then the variations will rank on the main page, which is where you want them to go if you're optimizing that page as well.
Yeah, I think from my point of view, like with URL parameter handling in specific, you've got Search Console and that's got a specific section on this. But what you need to realize is Google needs to crawl those pages to even understand what you want to do with them. So if you're going to put a canonical on them or a no index or anything like that, Google still needs to crawl them first. So if you know for a fact that filtered view, you 100% do not ever want to be indexed, and it is of no value for you SEO wise or for any reason for it to be in Google search, then use the robot.txt and disallow it from even being crawled, because there's no need for it to even be crawled. But saying that, you can't do that site wide, because sometimes there's little pockets where you do want, and I always use the example of a leather handbag, right? Leather handbags, that's fine. You got your different color variations, black, blue, pink, whatever it is. Now, black leather handbag is probably going to be searched a hell of a lot more than yellow leather handbag. And there's an example of where you could use a no index tag to no index certain variations. But if you want that to grab that black leather handbag query and those types of queries from your prospective customers e-commerce wise, then you make sure that you're allowing that page to be indexed, or that parameter version to be indexed.
Yeah. I think one last point I want to throw in on the top of that, that makes a heck of a lot of sense. One thing I realized is that and it might be blatantly obvious, maybe I just didn't realize. But if you set no index on any URL, even if it has backlinks, it will not show in the Search Console. So if you're doing a situation where you have a parameter that you decided that you don't want indexed anymore, and then you decide to put a no index tag on it, all of that link equity, or all of those backlinks that point to that destination will no longer appear in Search Console. So you'll need to use a third-party SEO tool, so Semrush, right? To go and find that. So no index is a bit of sometimes it can cause grief for you because you think there's no links, and then you start playing around with things and things get worse. But I hear your point in the sense of if you're using canonicals, then yeah, Google still has to go away and crawl that. It's a horrible, massive, like cauldron of it depends, to be honest, when it comes to brands. It really is.
Absolutely.
It really is.
Yeah.
That's it. And then the next question, Franco, is for you. Saying that I can't pronounce that guy's name, but yeah, he loves your great technical stacks that you highlighted. Can you share those resources and slides if possible?
Sure. Actually, they're publicly available. One of them is the Gomez Internet Study. If you Google the Gomez Internet Study, it has a wealth of information for e-commerce shop. It's a little dated now, but that's a great resource. Think with Google has a tremendous amount of e-commerce stats as well. So those are two I would start with, but I'll put some links in after the webinar in the comment section for you.
That's it. That's perfect. And Stephen has asked on a high level, can you tell us about the impact of BERT and how to best optimize for BERT, which that's a whole completely separate thing that I don't think we really want to get into in the last 4 minutes of a webinar. So I don't know if anyone wants to just give a top line at all.
I'm just going to chime in and say, if you offer a really good experience and you offer customers a good time when they get to your site, then algorithms and things typically aren't really important. I think when you ask a question like how do you optimize for BERT, then in my opinion, you're almost asking the question of how do you chase algorithm. I think focus on a technically sound site and make it really incredible for customers. And that is probably like 9/10 of your technical SEO problem taken care of. Because, you know, one thing that I've heard, I forget the specific person that said this, but we're not chasing Google. It's Google who are chasing us. They want customers to be connected to the best possible websites. So if you're building the best possible websites by experience, by customer feedback, by brand reputation, by links and all that sort of good stuff, then your problem is ultimately taken care of. So why would you bother start chasing algorithms at that point? It just doesn't make any sense to me. However, by saying that, I have a feeling I might eat my words, but that's typically how I like to approach algorithm questions, I guess.
SEO default answer, it depends.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and then Stephen's asking again, what speed test tools are you using? I know you're using a webpagetest.org, and is there any others that anyone would like to recommend to use?
You had Lightbox or
Lighthouse, yeah.
Lighthouse as well that you were showing.
The Lighthouse audit, Page Speed Insights from Google is another really good one from the mobile side. I'll just say this caveat. These are all tools, and you have to take all of the data from them with a grain of salt and do your homework because they will report slightly differently. Where you're seeing an A may not really be an A. So just spend some time. It's really worth it for the website. So give yourself some permission to feel a little frustrated with the tools, but dig in.
I think this is kind of where I like to geek out because for me, I like to run page speed insight on categories that are heavy. And what I mean by that is a lot of people just go to the home page and say, right, let's do a speed test and see what's happening. I like to go to search queries like wildcard search queries or queries that are really broad like red or colors and see how long it takes when you really give a hard test to a URL. You've got a category with maybe 500 products in, go and test the speed of that, rather than one that might just be the home page, which doesn't really have that much on it. So what I'm trying to say to you is crawl your worst parts of your site to get the real nitty-gritty information rather than just the home page, which is normally what happens, right?
That's it, yeah. The one that I like to do is, and I'll find the information, I'll share it on social media, is that there's someone wrote a script which pulls Lighthouse via the API straight into Google Sheets. So you can actually put in there your best converting pages and your worst converting pages, and so you can really, monitor those. It will go and crawl it weekly. It will create a log, and then you can do some fancy stuff in Data Studio with it as well to really sort of like visualize it. So then that way, you can keep your tabs on it without needing to keep going to these different tools with like 100 different URLs and work out what's happened in the last week. Some tools do have like monitoring where it'll monitor it for you daily or weekly. But the one in Google Sheet I like. I mean, you can just pull it through and it does it for you automatically.
Absolutely.
But as I said, I'll share that one.
Yeah, that sounds cool, man. Time's up, right?
Yeah.
That's it. Yeah. So any of the other questions, everyone, we will catch up on social media. If you go to the webinar page, you'll be able to find out everyone's where you can contact Franco, Luke, Stacy, and myself, and we'll be happy to pick up on any further questions on social media. And it was great putting this webinar together. And I think I need to say thank you to Semrush and thank you to you guys for making this happen.
Yeah, this was fun.
Yeah, thank you very much. Yeah, it was a lot of fun.
Thanks for having us.
Definitely need a beer now, but it was fun.
We're joining in just a minute, Luke.
All right, sounds good to me.
Bye, guys. Thank you.
Bye.
Okay.